¿Qué necesito? Is how I would put it in Spanish. This has been a crazy month, very surprising in many ways, filled with beautiful people, beautiful art, beautiful insights. I feel like I'm living my best life, but then everything also came kind of unexpectedly. So let me tell you about June in London, which I have come to think in my mind as my happy artsy month, and also somehow my first ever experience of June in London because last year didn't really happen at all, and the year before was also a mess. So, welcome to a new episode in my adventures as a fashion historian, and then also the first spontaneous video version of my life lately, which used to be a running series in my newsletter, Redressing Fashion, ages ago. I kind of stopped it because I thought it was a little too personal, but I actually kind of like personal things and I am a bit of an oversharer. So here we are again experimenting with new things. That being said, hello, 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 my dear fashion friends, and welcome to a new episode of Redressing Fashion. I am Laura Beltrán-Rubio, your host. I'm thrilled to be here recording again. The weather is nice. It's warm, maybe a little too hot, some would say, not for me. And I'm in the beautiful home of my dear friends who have very generously let me stay here while I move into my new flat in London. So let us get started. And I actually have a little order of the day to keep me in track because otherwise, you know me, I'm probably going to start just going on all of the tangents and getting very distracted and rambling. And we're trying to avoid that today. So, the first thing that I will say is that I have been super silent on redressing fashion in all of its forms, the newsletter, the podcast, the YouTube channel for about a month. And I think that was because I needed some introspection. So, the backstory of redressing fashion is that it started when I was getting my PhD as a way to verbally process, really, some of my ideas that I was having and just go through my research and for myself to analyze research sources and paintings and pieces of clothing that I was finding everywhere. And I realized that if I didn't sit down to write or to talk about them, I just basically, none of them existed really. Like none of my ideas were really there. That's where the verbally processing comes. And by verbally processing, I mean just like using words to process it. They can be written, they can be spoken out loud, but they need to just like get out of my body. And so that's where this started. It was a really, really beautiful experiment back then. It was a really good exercise intellectually as well, and I think probably also emotionally for me. And I think people actually kind of liked seeing live some of these ideas just like evolve. And fast forward 6 years or 5 years or whatever, and the PhD is, of course, well over. I have also finished a complete book manuscript on this topic, but then I've also exited academia. And I've talked about pieces of all of this journey in different videos, different episodes, newsletters. So I'll make sure to link them. But what I think I have concluded this month is that my transition finally is over. I feel that I have shed the rest of my academic skin and I have now fully embarked a new chapter in my life where I am a full-time stylist. And even though I have been doing styling work for quite a while and I've known that I don't want to pursue any full-time academic opportunities just yet, I don't think I had really embraced this identity as a stylist until very recently. And somehow embracing it has just shifted my mindset on so many things. And I think this month I simply just got to live that in practice in my everyday life. And it was beautiful, if I may say so myself. I have been having a really good time. And then the one thing that I keep going back to is that I feel more myself than I've ever felt in my entire academic career. And I feel very closely connected to that girl, really, who, I don't know, 13 years ago or however long ago it was, decided to take the leap, leave everything behind, my country, my family, my career as a nascent public policy making economist to pursue fashion. And I don't want to romanticize that because I know it was a hard time. And even though I was trying to be super bold and courageous at the time, I also know now with hindsight that I was hiding from many of my own kind of shadows and monsters. But what I can say now is that she was very wise in what she was trying to do. And she kind of knew where she was going, even though it has taken me a full 12 years and basically selling my soul to the devil of academia for several years too, to notice that. But I'm glad we're here. And so that was the first thing. I really wanted to share that I feel like I have completely closed my chapter in academia. And this is not just a feeling that I have, but it's also matched with actions, which has meant turning down certain opportunities, not applying for certain jobs, even though everyone thinks it's the right choice. And I have even convinced myself at times that it was the right choice, and then kind of sat back with what I actually want in life and, my values and my aspirations and my purpose. And that's when I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, this rationally sounds like a good call because it's safe, but it's not what I want to do. And so that, of course, took me to a journey of introspection and to wanting to just pause redressing fashion for a minute and see how it fits within my life. I have left academia. I have not stopped researching, and there's actually several research projects that I'm still working on. One is a very exciting collaboration with a very, very dear person to me whom I admire very much as a scholar who has been inspiring a lot of my work for years. And now that I've finally met her, I know that we just kind of vibe the same energy, and I adore her, probably more than she knows or realizes. So that's one. I'm also still working on my book. I have submitted the manuscript, but we still have to go through like editorial reviews and, laying out the entire thing, designing it, choosing images, all that. So that's definitely part of it. And then I also received a very exciting grant that I can't really share the details of just yet, but that means that there's another very, very exciting and actually like dressmaking project in the works. So I'm still researching, but I'm also still styling. And that's actually what I'm doing most of the time now. And so I feel that redressing fashion has to reflect some of that because that's who I am now and that's how I'm spending my days. And then there's also something about just like sharing my life that I like, but I also feel that people can connect with. And so this new chapter, I guess, of redressing fashion also includes some of that. And one of the conversations that I've been having with a lot of the people in my life, be it academics and colleagues, but then also friends who have gone through the PhD who are also kind of struggling in academia, because everyone I think is these days, also people outside academia, people seem to just be curious about what the life of a fashion historian is like and the life of a stylist is like. And it is, I would say, much less glamorous and exciting than most people think on most days. But then there are some days that are just amazing, and I need to pinch myself to kind of remind me that this is my actual life and not just a dream, a wild childhood dream that I'm living. So, yeah, this is where this is coming from. And so, without justifying myself anymore. Today, I just want to share a little reflection of what this month has been. That's what my life lately posts were about. And by the way, there's a written version of this if you'd rather read than watch, or if you want to have just like the written companion, also because there are links and names and stuff there that might be useful if you want to refer back to them. So I'm linking that in the show notes. But also, I want to share what I've been reading, and I actually have a full stack of books here that I'm gonna just like show. I love a show and tell. You can see my museum background here. That's how I like classes to be, even though I'm not teaching anymore. And that's actually something that I've been doing a lot with my style clients recently. I just ask them to just like bring things and show me. Can be a childhood photo or like some memory of someone they love or things that they have in their closets. So that's been a theme, which is why you're seeing it here. And then finally, I'm going to go through some of the things that I'm looking forward to in the next month. So let us start with how I spent my June. And here I say that this was an entire surprise to me. I did not know that June was the month to live art in London. Last June, as I mentioned, was a mess. I was working 24/7. Even on weekends, I had to basically support my students through the end of the academic year, which is always very stressful. So the undergrads, they were submitting final projects. The PhD students were approaching their annual review. Master students were writing their dissertations. So it was just a crazy time for everyone. And on top of that, we were moving offices. So I had to do a lot of that. We were reorganizing everything for the summer courses, but then the upcoming academic year. So we had to just like move a bunch of things around. We were clearing out stuff from unfinished projects and finished projects in the studios because I worked at a design school. We were installing exhibitions for the final year showcases of especially the students in fashion communications and styling. We were running graduate fashion week. We were trying to recruit more students and having a bunch of open days. And I also had my own tiny little exhibition at the British Academy with my friends Tatiana Leboeuf and Megan Kopsa. So it was a packed month. And even though I was technically in London for most of it, or like between London and Leicester, I don't feel like I had any experience of London during those days because I was just trapped working. This year, it has been kind of the complete opposite because I have been working with some of my style clients. I have been running a bunch of fashion history tours and fashion history and shopping experiences in London for people who are visiting, and those have been super nice. But that, of course, means that I've been hitting the streets pretty much every single day for work related reasons, which I love, I must say. The other thing that I've been doing is taking time to go and see a bunch of things that I am just curious about and basically saying yes to every single invitation that has come my way, which includes several invitations to art galleries, to member events at the National Gallery and other museum spaces, to all of the auction houses, to a day trip. Well, actually, I think I've said yes to more than a day trip and like a weekend trip, but only one has materialized so far. The rest are planned for the rest of the summer. We'll get there later. And of course, to a bunch of other like social events, tea parties, birthday dinners, birthday parties, nights out with my friends. So it was a very busy month. But back to where I started, what I was not expecting was there to be so much art. So much art. I went to London Gallery Weekend, which is actually a full week, with a lot of openings and panels and discussions and performances. I met several artists, which I always love. I love being intellectually stimulated by contemporary artists, especially because I feel that they have something in their brains that I don't. And so it's always super fun to try to understand their practices and get a little behind the scenes of how they create and what they make. And then speaking about that, actually, I went to a fantastic workshop with Campbell Addy, the British photographer, British Canadian photographer, who is, first of all, one of the most charismatic people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm completely obsessed with just his aura. But it was also super, super, super inspiring in many different ways. For me, at least, and of course, this is where my scholarly brain comes in. The most important thing was when he was talking about the gaze. And when we talk about the gaze, we often talk about, the male gaze and the female gaze and the queer gaze, and maybe sometimes even like racialized gazes. And it all can get very like theoretical on one side, but then also kind of negative on the other. And he was talking about the loving gaze, which is something that feels much more personal, something that we can definitely connect to at a more, yeah, like deeper personal level, and also more positive in a way than all of the other gazes that we normally talk about. And that, I think, was beautiful. I'm still not sure what to make out of it. Theoretically speaking, I don't know if I actually want to go in that direction, but the thought is kind of simmering somewhere there in the background. And then the other thing was actually putting that into practice. And I am not necessarily foreign to photography. I'm a stylist, and although I'm working as a personal stylist these days, I have done like more editorial kind of styling work in the past. I took photography classes myself when I was in university and when I was younger. I've always wanted to have a camera by me, and I've taught, courses on the history of photography. So that's not foreign to me at all. What is a little bit more foreign to me is drawing. I feel that I am a person who is kind of good with their hands. I am a maker. I have been performing needle arts since I was a kid. Like, I do not remember a time in my life when I couldn't make something with needle and thread, but I'm not a draftsperson. And I've always kind of wanted to draw. I don't feel like I can do it. And so in this workshop, what I ended up doing was trying to draw also with something that I'm not as comfortable with. So I chose charcoal, and I followed Campbell's advice, which was think about what you love about the person that you're portraying and start there. And so I was portraying this new friend of mine whom I met just before the workshop, but we really only were able to like actually talk with each other during that workshop. And there are several things that I love about her. She has a beautiful smile, and I think that speaks to what I perceive as just a generous and gentle personality that she has. But also, since the very first time I saw her, her like beautiful dark large eyes, which in the two different events that I've seen her are framed with winged makeup and very long lashes. I think that has always attracted me to her. Not romantically at all, but just like it's how I remember her, like with her beautifully expressive eyes. And so I think that's where I started. And then she had these like curls that were tied back technically, but her ponytail was kind of undone. So I went there too. And then from there, it just turned out to be a beautiful, to my surprise, beautiful portrait. And I actually feel like I should show it here. Let us try. How does this work? Okay, here it is. So this is my drawing, which I feel super proud of. So I guess you can tell where I'm mentally these days. Anyway, so we had that workshop. It actually happened just a couple days ago. So that was kind of the end of the month, but it was a month that was definitely filled with art. In addition to London Art Weekend or Week and the auction houses that I've mentioned, I also went to Hastings on a day trip with the National Gallery. We went to Hastings Contemporary and Amici Art Gallery and saw a couple of just beautiful exhibitions there. Actually, it was a total of like 4 exhibitions that we saw. really, really, really nice. Some of the artists were there, especially at Amici, and that was pretty nice to see. Again, I love talking with contemporary artists and just learning about their practice, so that was a treat. And then in the afternoon, we went to visit a private collection at a stately house, which was absolutely amazing, amazing, amazing. We were asked not to share too much about it, so I'll leave it there. What I will say is that it was absolutely spectacular. If I ever have an art collection, please let it be just that way. They insisted a lot on the collecting practice of this collector as just pursuing what they love, what they want. And that's actually been a recurring theme. I also had a private viewing of the drawings and prints in Stephen Ongpin's collection at Christie's just last weekend. And he was also talking about how he basically buys what he loves. And I don't know, I kind of love that because that's, I guess, my approach to clothing as well. You should buy what you love and what you know you will wear out of love and build a sort of collection around it rather than just buy whatever nonsense you're told looks good on you because of the shape or the color or because it's in season or whatever. So yeah, just follow the love, I guess, is another conclusion of the month. I went to see a few exhibitions. So Zurbarani, you've heard me probably talk about this by now. It's amazing. He's one of my favorite early modern painters in the Spanish world, mostly because I find his depictions of textiles just absolutely breathtaking. I will talk more about him next week, so come back for that. And then the other exhibition that I saw that was actually a surprise was The Music is Black at the Victoria and Albert Museum, the East Museum, not the Storehouse, not the main one in South Kensington, the one that's on Stratford, just by London College of Fashion, in that like cultural row of buildings, as I like to call it in my mind. It was a great exhibition, very enjoyable. They have this headset, and I'm usually not the kind of person who picks a headset or like an audio guide for an exhibition. I just find it overstimulating. There's something about just like music that overstimulates me, and so I try to avoid it. And then audio guides, I also think they are just too much information for me. I need to just like take in the exhibition in silence if possible, which doesn't usually happen, but you know. And so I kind of reluctantly accepted the headset and like put it on. I was like, I'll give it a try. And it turned out that the headset is a playlist that's tuned in with the different pieces displayed in the exhibition. And so as you move along, you're basically listening to the soundtrack of whatever is going on in the gallery, and that I thought is absolutely fabulous. There were also some amazing fashion pieces there, but again, I will talk more about this exhibition next week as well, so please come back. And then finally, just last week, I went with one of my dearest childhood friends, who's like really just like my twin brother in many ways, to Treasure House Fair, which I thought was going to be a sort of design exhibition more than anything else. It was quite eclectic, which I love. I'm not going to complain about that. It was also quite nice to be there early during the preview day before it got packed, because I'm sure it got packed, especially because it had AC during the peak of the heat wave in London. So probably a lot of people also went there to kind of escape the hot, humid, sunny weather of that day. Some of the highlights for me were a lot of equestrian paintings, which everyone knows I love. A lot of portraits of fashion is how I call them. So basically portraits depicting people in clothes. And then the portraits are more of the clothes than the people. Not all of these images are necessarily portraits of a specific person, but they have their certain like types of clothes and stuff. So that's, yeah, I call them portraits of fashion in my mind. That makes sense. You tell me if it doesn't. And then some jewelry, which if you know me, you know I am very passionate about jewelry. It's what I grew up seeing, with my mom and my aunt being jewelry designers. And actually, when I first started out as what I call a real fashion historian, That's when I worked at the Met. One of my first projects was to catalog designs for jewelry. So, that's definitely an important part of me and both my personal and my professional life. And I do collect jewelry. So I guess that's my theme. Among the jewels that I saw was this one brooch that I wish I had taken a little photo or a video of it, but I was too excited just handling it to do it. But it was like this kind of strip. It looked in my mind like a sort of skirt, and it was in probably 1920s-ish date, which makes me think about the dresses, like flapper dresses, and how they moved, and the brooch kind of mimics that same movement and shape, which maybe is why I like it so much, with just like tiny diamonds and seed pearls. The other one that I saw was a bracelet, a diamond bracelet watch. So like a tiny, tiny watch, which I got very excited about, to everyone's surprise. Even my friend was like, why are you looking at watches? And I must say that this I owe to Georgia Benjamin, an old friend of mine. We met in New York at a fashion event with Rebecca Minkoff ages ago. And now she is my go-to watch expert and probably everyone else's go-to watch expert. So thanks, Georgia. I did take a video of that one. It's not very good, but I will have to send it to Georgia. And yeah, I think that's it, really. That's sort of how I spent June. And then in addition to that, I read a lot and I ate a lot. I don't think I'm going to go into the list of what I ate here in a lot of depth. What I will say is that I spent a lot of time eating in Mayfair for whatever, well, I was going to say for whatever reason, but I guess it's because I was spending a lot of time there between gallery viewings and walking tours and personal shopping, touring experiences of London. So I guess that's why. And I went to a lot of places that are very popular among tourists, but one of them I had never been to, the Mayfair Chippy. Some of them I just rarely go to because they are cheesy and touristy, but they are good. So they have claimed their place in the public imagination or like public appreciation. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm leaving those in the post linked because I don't want this to get like way too long, and I feel it is a little too long now. So that's why I'm trying to just move forward to what I read. And I must say that my reading has been probably much less eclectic than it normally is recently because I'm not really reading a lot of academic stuff. I've been reading a lot of news. I have been trying to get back to reading some academic stuff, but not really because I don't really have a reason to, or I haven't had a reason to. I think I do now with these new research projects that I was mentioning a while ago that are coming through. So I have a reason to go back to them. I just haven't just yet. I was enjoying my happy artsy month. I have been reading a lot of things that just make me happy, starting with books in French. There's something about French that just feels like a massage to my brain. And especially if it's just like a short and sweet read that I can read it, I don't know, a couple days. And I've actually been experimenting also with reading translations into French rather than into English, which is my go-to reading language. I don't really read a lot of Spanish unless it's like originally written in Spanish. So I've been exploring with translations, and I actually kind of love that again because French just feels like a massage to my brain. So this is La Forêt au clair de lune by Michiko Aoyama, and then this is Je me souviens de Fallujah by Farah Alani. Both of them were just like sweet short reads. Fallujah though was kind of heavy, the story of the son of a political refugee from Iraq who went through a lot of traumatic experiences, but also the son really kind of coming to terms with what it means to be an outsider, but then also French, and then just like accepting his father's journey without really knowing a lot of it precisely because of the trauma. It was very touching. I don't know if it was also very touching for me as an immigrant, although my migration conditions are all just happy, opportunity focused more than fleeing conflict. But yeah, it was a beautiful book, super recommended. I don't know if it's ever going to be translated into English, but if you read French, you must read it. The next one is, oh, this one I actually have only read like a page. I picked it at the second-hand furniture shop, but I felt called to it. It's Baudelaire, Le Paradis Artificiel, which, I mean, if you know anything about 19th century history and like cities and fashion, Baudelaire is the father of the figure of the flaneur. He's like the quintessential flaneur, I would say. And he reports his life in a very fashionable Paris, and where modernity is kind of burgeoning and there's this conflicting excitement about everything that's happening, but then also the nostalgia for how everything was before. And because I've been walking around the streets of London a lot and talking about the 19th century a lot, and some other flaneurs themselves in my fashion history shopping tours of London, well, of course, I felt drawn to it. But to be fair, I really only read like a page and then I put it down. Maybe this is time to get back to it. And the reason I put it down is because I've found other kind of more exciting things to read. I'm more in the mood of like lighter, fast-paced stuff. So speaking of fast-paced, I think this is the main one I read in like 3 days, just over the weekend. Helle and Death, or Hell and Death. I think it's actually meant to be Helle. It's a Danish name. It's a murder mystery, nothing super innovative. It just kind of uses all the tropes of murder mysteries, but it was quite nice, quite fast paced. Again, I just read it in 3 nights or whatever, and it's been fun. I kind of want to read more like this. And then the big surprise to me was this one, which is a fantasy book, The Tarot Reader of Versailles. And this came about because I was with my friend Kaylin at Foyles, which is one of the best libraries in London, and which actually she introduced me to. And we were just like wandering around. She's a big fantasy reader. And I was telling her that I don't think I've read enough fantasy. I think it's probably because I spent a lot of time just thinking that I was a little too serious for that, like taking myself too seriously, which honestly is something that you should never do. But for some reason, I fell into that trap. And so I was like, yeah, I can't read that because I don't enjoy it. But I actually kind of do. And I remember when I was a teenager, I think that's when I started taking myself a little too seriously and stopped reading fantasy because I preferred to read Émile Zola and Honoré de Balzac and I guess Gabriel Garcia Marquez and like the likes, which Garcia Marquez has some, I mean, magical realism, but it's not entirely fantastical. So I thought I was a little too clever for that. Shame on me. But I also, with my sister and through my sister, was exposed to a lot of fantasy because she does read a lot of fantasy. And so I remember kind of picking up books here and there and like reading them with her as an excuse for like bonding. But actually, probably it's because I also enjoyed them. So now I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back to reading fantasy. I want to pick something. Kaylin very generously offered several recommendations, and I might get back to them at some point, but this one just called my name. If you know me, if you know anything about me, anything that has witchcraft, France, I think we've established that already in this episode, Versailles specifically, and dressmaking, which is not in the title, but it is part of the book, like dressmaking, fashion, dressmakers are a thing here, people who dress well are a thing here. I mean, it just screams my name. And so I picked it up. I would have probably finished it if it weren't for my friend Shirley, who invited me to come with her to Paris next month to celebrate her birthday on a little girls' escape. So I'm trying to save it for then. Might not happen, but we'll see. And then finally, I have the one fashion history book that I read cover to cover, also in like 3 days, Fashion City. It's the catalog of the exhibition of the same name that was at the Museum of London. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, probably the year before. Probably says here somewhere. But anyway, it traces basically the history of Jewish people in London and how they shaped the Jewish fashion industry, and then also other immigrants as well. Oh, yeah, so it's actually on view on 2023, October 2023 through April 2024. It was a fantastic exhibition, and the catalog is also amazing. I enjoyed reading it so much, and just like it's beautifully illustrated. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. So I really do recommend it. And then also, again, I talked a lot about my fashion history tours, but I have been able to add some exciting stories, lesser known names, thanks to this book and the work of Beth and Bide, Lucy Whitmore, who wrote it, but then also other people who have influenced their work as well, thanks to this. So I recommend that. And so, with that, I think we are almost ready to close. Not without first sharing a little bit of what I'm looking forward to. I was going to say next month, but I guess it's actually this month in July. So, I mentioned when I was showing this book that I'm going to Paris with my best friend. That is honestly the happiest thing that could happen in my life. Also, because she is like my sister. She's very, very dear to my heart. We are very close, but I think we're both so busy that we don't really get to talk a lot. And then also, she lives in New York, I live in London. We don't really have a lot of opportunities to see each other. And this year, I got to spend my very own birthday with her in New York. And now we're going to celebrate her birthday a week early, but still celebrating her birthday in Paris, which is one of our favorite cities, together. And so that's just a huge treat. I'm so excited about it. We are also working on style, so I'm actually styling her. We're in the middle of her program right now, and we decided that we are going to finish it in person in Paris, and we're also gonna go shopping. We're gonna go to some art exhibitions and some fashion exhibitions, so it's gonna be great. I'm definitely gonna report it, so come back for that. And then yeah, the other things that I'm excited about are more fashion history tours, more exhibitions actually, and visiting more galleries. I actually have a new friend who owns a gallery and has invited me very generously for a tour of their upcoming exhibition. So I'm definitely doing that. There are many, many, many fashion and fashion related exhibitions in London this summer that I want to visit or visit again. And that this is actually the topic of next week's episode. So please come back for that. And I guess just enjoying the summer. Well, I'm also moving finally after having to wait for too long because buying a house in this country is just way too complicated and filled with unexpected delays. But I'm finally moving in. So you will see a new backdrop. Hopefully, half as beautiful as this one at some point. Not before the trip to Paris, though. So, yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about this new format. Do read and click through the links if you want more information about what I shared today, and come back, please, next week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you with all my heart. See you very soon. Bye-bye.